Well, happy Monday, everybody here in Hawkeye Nation. You are tuned into From the Hawkeye of the Storm and Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. And it feels weird to be live on the air recapping an Iowa basketball game during the middle of a weekday, but that's what we have here. It's a holiday, President's Day, and so some college basketball games going on around the country, and a phenomenal one that just finished up in Columbus between the eighth-ranked Buckeyes and Jensen's Hawkeyes, and Iowa finding a way to force overtime before eventually falling in OT with a final of 86-78. We're going to be joined momentarily by Kyle Huseman of HawkeyeReport.com, in addition to Kachine Alexander, former All-Big Ten and Iowa Hawkeye guard Kachine Alexander. Let's give you a brief recap of this one before we get into the takeaways and the big picture and what to make of this. I'll say this as it relates to a big takeaway. If you are a fan of this program, and I'm assuming that almost everybody tuning in to today's live show is a fan of this program and of this team, you've got to be proud of the fight from this group that, again, it wasn't all that long ago that this team was finding ways to lose games. They had lost 5 straight. And now all of a sudden they're finding ways to give themselves a chance. They had won 6 straight heading into today's game against a top 10 team on the road. And it looked like this game was over. As you see the stats across the bottom of your screen, Iowa trailed Ohio State 69-57 with a minute and a half remaining in this game. It appeared to be over. I know some people turned their televisions off, and Iowa frantically came back in the final minute and a half. They outscored Ohio State down the stretch 17-4. 17-4 to force overtime before, again, falling in OT. Early on, I'll say this, Iowa trailed early. They were down double figures early. And I had tweeted out, I felt like Iowa was playing pretty well. Ohio State was hitting shots they don't normally hit. You could tell the scout told Iowa to give those Ohio State guards space outside, make them beat you from 3. And Ohio State did early. They made a flurry of 3s in that first quarter. And Iowa did turn the ball over a few too many times, 4 turnovers in the first quarter. But, you know, it's not a horrible number on the road against the top 10 team for an Iowa squad that has had their 20-plus, even 30-plus turnover games this year. Iowa just missed shots. I thought they missed shots around the rim. Hannah Stolke struggled to finish around the rim all day. Addison O'Grady was really ineffective. They really struggled to produce points on the inside, with the exception being some production from Sydney Falter. She is just a grinded out type of guard/forward. She's playing the 4 right now, and I think she's probably a little out of position, but she's rebounding like a 4 or even a 5. She finished with a game-high 15 rebounds. Second quarter, I thought, foul trouble was the story from then on. You have Sydney Falter getting her second foul. You have Lucy Olson with her second foul at the 6-minute mark in the second quarter. And we saw people like Tegan Mullaney, Aaliyah Guyton really step up. I was proud of what I saw from Tegan. Remember, this is a freshman group that got a lot of playing time early, especially during the first 4 or 5 games of conference play. And ever since then, really ever since Iowa turned this thing around during conference play, it's been the story of the upperclassmen. And I thought those 2 players, Guyton and Mulaney really filled in admirably. I saw hustle out of Tegan Mulaney. I thought she boxed out well and made an effort on the glass. Made a couple of plays in overtime that you certainly want back. But I thought her hustle was big there in the second quarter. And Iowa was at least within reaching distance heading into the second half. They held the Buckeyes to 12 points in the second quarter after giving up 22 in the first. And the score at halftime was 34-21, but it didn't feel out of reach by any means, and it never did in that first half. You're looking at the score and you're thinking, okay, let's not get it anywhere past, what was it, 14? Was that their biggest lead? 14 was Ohio State's biggest lead today, and Iowa did a nice job hanging around. And then it was the third quarter offensive onslaught from Iowa, 23 in the third, and then 30 points in the fourth. Of course, 17 of those points came in the final minute and a half. Let's give our attention to our good friend Kyle Huesman of HawkeyeReport.com, who is with us. And Kyle, it's good to see you here after a wild President's Day showdown from Columbus. So much to get to, but I guess we'll start with this. Your thoughts, fresh off of a frantic comeback in regulation, only to fall short in overtime. What does this say? I guess from a short-term perspective about this team, and does this tell you anything you didn't already know about the fight of this group, and specifically the ability of Lucy Olson to kind of put the team on her back down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your question about the fight of this team, I think we've seen over the last month or so, from a long-term standpoint about the fight from this team. We've talked about how they were really backs up against the wall NCAA tournament-wise, and then to be able to win 6 in a row up until today. That was talking about the long-term fight of this team and how they were able to kind of turn things around. But the short-term fight, obviously in the last, 2 minutes of the game, to make a comeback there. Obviously it took some shots that, aren't going to fall in with a lot of frequency. I mean, Lucy Olson was taking some pretty crazy off-balance shots, but she made them. They forced a couple turnovers there at the end. Ohio State gave them opportunities with some missed free throws. But yeah, anytime you erase a deficit, like I haven't looked at what the exact score was with a certain amount of time left, but I mean, let's see here. Minute 10 left. They're down 70-60 with 70 seconds left.
Yeah, it was 69-57 with a minute and a half.
Yeah, I mean, so to cut that, I mean, obviously there's a lot of it. Lucy Olson hits a 3 to cut it to 72-66. She hits another to cut it to 73-69. They end up getting that turnover off the inbounds, and Sid gets the basket plus the foul. I mean, to erase something like that, it takes total buy-in from the team to say, hey, let's just go for it, see if we can make some type of comeback. It obviously helps that Lucy was able to knock in some shots. But yeah, pretty impressive for them to, in the final minute, to be down 70-60 and still. I mean, now Ohio State helped. Like I said, they made some mistakes and missed some free throws, but to be able to make that comeback and even get it to overtime is definitely impressive fight. And then I think the overtime kind of went similar to what a lot of overtimes go with similar situations, whether it's men's or women's. You see a team make a comeback like that, and then the home team is able to find a way kind of in overtime to put it away. But yeah, all in all, I mean, with the way that the fouls went, I mean, I had 3 players foul out. I know Hannah was down there in the final seconds, but to be in that type of foul trouble throughout most of the game, most of the second half, and to be able to still have a chance to win it in overtime, I thought it was a really good fight from Iowa today.
2 games ago, fans were complaining after the Nebraska game about the officiating, and I was the one that said I didn't think it was quite as bad as people were making it out to be. I thought the officiating today was average at best. I don't even know that it would be average. Now, I mean, it's easy to look at first of all, Ohio State is known for physicality, getting to the free throw line. And as you said, Kyle, especially down the stretch of regulation, they could have put this game away at the line. They didn't. But Iowa was in foul trouble early and often, and that's becoming a bit of a trend. So there's a balance here, right? If you're a fan, you can be upset with the officiating, but I think from a coaching perspective, you've got to look at this and say, okay, why are we struggling to defend without fouling? Because I thought Iowa was really good defensively in this game, but just sent Ohio State to the line too much, and it changed the level of aggression you can play with if you're Kylie, if you're Sydney Falter, if you're Hannah. What did you think of the officials?
Yeah, I think first off, when you're going to be a more defensive-centered team, maybe not centered, but Iowa's definitely a better defensive team in years past this year. When you ratchet up that defensive intensity, you probably are going to get a few more foul calls. Just by virtue of being a higher level defensive team. and it has been a little interesting the last few games because they have gotten into foul trouble. Sita Fulcher's gotten in foul trouble. Hannah Stolke's gotten in foul trouble in a couple of games. Even Kylie has as well. And I would say that those are probably your three best defenders. So it's not surprising when they're playing a little bit better, a little bit tougher defense that you are going to grab a foul call here and there. I thought there was a lot of, at times, anticipation calls today where refs thought there would be a foul call. And Cody McMahon she's a really strong player, drives to the basket really well. I think at times she gets rewarded for stuff just because she kind of powers her way into the lane and gets rewarded at times when I don't think she should. And I don't know how much of that plays a part as the game goes on, but I mean, the last two times she's played in Columbus against Iowa, she's really turned it on in the fourth quarter and really taken over the game. I don't know if that's because once you get into foul trouble, like you said, you have to play a little bit differently. But yeah, I thought, there were some calls. I thought there were some on the Iowa side that Iowa got that could have went a different way as well. I just think the officiating overall is just not great at times. I think there's a lot of anticipation that certain fouls are going to happen, and sometimes they don't. I thought Sita Fulcher's fourth foul at the end of the third quarter was brutal. She didn't touch Cody McMahon on that basket. An anticipation call, in my opinion, that there's going to be one on a second chance layup.
The foul that fouled Sydney out, I thought that was a questionable call as well.
To me, that's not a call you make in overtime.
She's got an arm down here. Yeah. She's not leaning in. She's not extending the arm bar. She got the other arm straight up. I think Cody McMahon, and she does a great job. I mean, she makes some terrific finish with her left hand down the stretch tonight. She's a really talented player, especially around the rim. But I thought Iowa played her well in general, even though she finished with 20 plus. But I would agree with what you just got done saying, that the anticipation fouls, if anything. And hey, I give people like Aaliyah Guyton, you probably heard me mention this before adding you in here. I thought Aaliyah Guyton and Tegan Mullaney, in those moments where they had to be on the floor for either ball handling purposes or, in Tegan's case, they have no one else to play the four. I thought they held their own. And this is a freshman group that of late has been pretty quiet. Your thoughts on the young girls?
Yeah, I thought Aaliyah Guyton did some good things. Had a couple of tough plays there in overtime. Missed a long three that I would have liked her to try to look for something else. They still had 8-10 seconds on the shot clock, and then obviously turned it over on the next possession. But I mean, finished with 9 points, hit a couple of threes. Only finished with 2 turnovers in 29 minutes, and one of those, like I said, was in overtime. So I think the final stat line is pretty good for Guyton, and I liked what she did throughout the game. But the couple of mistakes that happened in overtime are obviously tough ones. And Tegan Mullaney with I would assume that's a season high 8 rebounds. Didn't score, but I thought she did a good job on the glass when Sita Fulcher was out to be able to kind of continue on that rebounding.
8 rebounds in 8 minutes, Kyle. I mean,
yeah, that's huge, especially like I said, when Sita Fulcher's on the bench for those stretches, you need that rebounding. So I thought Tegan did a really good job of providing that. And then again, the overtime, she has the overthrow on the turnover late there that kind of put it away a little bit. But yeah, so a couple of mistakes in overtime that the freshmen can learn from. But I think what they did in regulation was really important. Obviously, Aaliyah hit a couple of big shots. And like I said, Tegan to get those 8 rebounds was really important because Sita Fulcher led the team with 15 rebounds. And when she's not on the court, that's a big piece of your rebounding on the bench. So for Tegan to be able to come in and rebound like that was huge. And they ended up out-rebounding Ohio State 41-34, which is pretty close to what I expected. Ohio State's not a great rebounding team, and Iowa did a pretty good job there. Held them to 7 offensive rebounds, and then outscored them 8-7 in second chance points. So I thought that was a big part.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the positives. Out-rebounded Ohio State. I thought they defended really well basically all night. You could argue got to do a little bit better job of defending without fouling. The one thing that I noticed with Iowa, Kyle, and this is teams at every level, but it's amazing the amount of times you see a player drive the ball inside and the Iowa defender has their arms straight up, but then as the shot's going up, the swat down. And you're begging for a call to be made. I understand you're going for the ball and it's instinctual to try to get a shot block or a strip shot there in those moments. But I thought Iowa, again, as I watched this game, I just couldn't help but think fundamentally they have come a long ways since even where they were these last 2 seasons when they went to the national title game each year. And I know we've talked about the influence of Sean Sullivan, in that. And you got to give the head coach, Jensen, a lot of credit. But I think to me, it's just further evidence that fundamental changes, whether it's personnel because of personnel or not, they're defending as well as I've seen this program defend under Lisa or Jan. So that's positive, especially down the stretch here in late February. Couple things here before we open up our call line. Let me run through some of the numbers. Hannah Stolke finished with 10 points, 5 rebounds. It seems to me that she struggles when obviously she's going up against a terrific shot blocker today is it Lamilla? How do you pronounce her name?
I can't say as though I know for sure either.
Yeah.
She did a good job I thought she did a good job of defending Hannah. Hannah just at times, when there's some contact in the post, she needs to get better at finishing some of those. She's not going to get the call every time, but I think there are some shots that she leaves out there that maybe there's a little bit of contact. It's going to be a tough basket, but even something like, I think if she's 7 of 12 today or something like that, I think you feel a lot better about her game. It's been weird because she had a really good stretch of play those first few games where she started at center. And what is it, the last 3 games now? It's been a little rough. Today was a little bit better, I would say, than the other 2 games. But she's someone that they need down the stretch to. Obviously they were able to keeping themselves in it today with her just scoring 10. But once you get to the postseason, Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, they're going to need her to score more than 10 points and be more efficient than 5 of 12. But yeah, she's just got to get a little bit stronger around the basket. I think she missed some shots with some minimal contact. That if she just gets a little bit stronger with the basketball and pushes through the contact, I think she can have more points in a game.
And she's got to rebound the ball better, I think, in a matchup like that. For her to come away with 5 rebounds playing the 5. Now, when Kachine jumps on here, I want to ask her about that, because for us to see the players that gobbled up the minutes at the 4, which would be a Falter and Mulaney, those 2 players finished with 23 rebounds combined. And then you look at Stolke and O'Grady, they finished with 5 rebounds combined. That makes me wonder, is there something from a schematic standpoint that I'm missing there?
I'd have to rewatch the game and watch every single box out on rebounds to know for sure. But there are situations where I've seen it's happened with Taylor McCabe as well at times, where you see a player box out really well, but the ball may bounce to a different side of the basket, or it's happened with other players. Sid Fulter, even though she has 15 rebounds, there's at times where I've noticed, Sid, that was a really good box out. She didn't get the rebound because it bounced off to a Hannah Stolke or someone else. So without going through and watching every single possession, I don't know if Hannah's 5 rebounds is something that she did poorly, or if she boxed out well at times and maybe just didn't get those boards. But yeah, without watching every single missed shot that Ohio State had to see, I don't know. But I get your point. But if Sid Fulter is going to continue to be a 12, 14, pretty consistently double-digit rebounder, I don't think you're upset with it, I guess. I think you'd be more upset if Sid Fulter came away with 7 rebounds today and you lost the rebounding battle. Then maybe you point out, hey, Hannah, we need to rebound better. But if Sid Fulter is grabbing the rebounds, to me, it doesn't matter whether it's Sid grabbing 15 or Hannah grabbing 15. If someone is able to do rebound at a high level, it works out, I guess. But yeah, without watching every single possession, I don't know. But
I'd be curious from a schematic standpoint, but you're absolutely right. As far as the total rebounding is concerned, you can't really argue with +7 on the road against a physical and fairly long Ohio State bunch. They're not as long as UCLA is going to be here in a few days. That's probably fair, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I thought Iowa did a pretty good job handling Ohio State's pressure. I know they finished with 20 turnovers. They did play an extra 5 minutes. But I can't remember if it was Ohio State's averaging either 24 turnovers forced a game or 26, something like that. So they held Ohio. They went under Ohio State's average, like I said, playing an extra 5 minutes. I don't know what you thought. I thought they handled the press for the most part pretty well. There was no USC game type implosion where Ohio State was just forced to turnover after turnover. Iowa did have a few turnovers against the press, but I thought for the most part they handled it pretty well. To me, the end, I know they got to overtime, but I just thought the start to the game, Iowa was missing some shots early. I know you were mentioning that before I hopped on. I thought early Iowa was getting some decent looks. They just didn't hit them early, and Ohio State was obviously shooting pretty well early. I think all 6 of those threes that they made were Were they in the first 3 quarters? I think they made all 6 of their threes in the first 3 quarters. A team that's not going to shoot it real well, and they had it going early. And it was just kind of that combination of Iowa wasn't shooting well early, and Ohio State kind of had it going a little bit early.
They made 4 of their 6 in the first quarter.
Yeah, and that was the thing is I saw a lot of people complaining about the 3-point defense. I thought the defense was fine. Ohio State, the last 6 games coming in today, was averaging 3.5 threes a game and shooting something like 28% from 3. There's no reason to start a game knowing how good Ohio State is with McMahon and Cambridge to get into the paint and score there. There's no reason to defend fully on the 3, at least right away. And yeah, I mean, credit to Ohio State. They came out and hit those open threes early. But I didn't have an issue with the way that Iowa guarded the 3-point line early in the game. I think that's how a lot of teams would do it when they see a team struggling from 3-point range like that. But yeah, I don't. What they say? They said Kennedy Cambridge, Jelani's sister, was like 4 of 29 over the last stretch or whatever, or 4 of 29 for the season. She was 2 of 2 in the first quarter. So I mean, some of that is just kind of how it goes at times. But I thought for the most part, I think coming away from this, I think for the most part, Iowa played a pretty solid game. You can point out individual plays, individual stretches, but I think what we had talked about a couple of days ago after the Rutgers game, I think this is an okay loss. It would have been different if Iowa lost by 20 today, but they went in, they battled, they fought really hard late, and they went into overtime, and they did fall. But I mean, I think this is a game that you don't really lose any of the momentum for the 6-game losing streak, in my opinion. I think this is a game that Iowa's going to come away feeling like they belonged on that court with the top 10 team. And now obviously there's another one coming on Sunday with I think UCLA is at 3 now. But yeah, obviously another big opportunity against the top 10, top 5 team.
And Kennedy Cambridge, she didn't take any more threes the rest of the day. Made her both attempts, 5 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3. Finished with 16 points. Jelani Cambridge finished with 29, 11 of 14 from the foul line. So she was certainly their best foul shooter because Cody McMahon missed 5. Kennedy Cambridge missed 3. And again, Ohio State left that door open from the line down the stretch of this game, and Iowa took advantage in a couple of just unbelievable 3-point shots from Lucy Olson. We had Aaliyah Guyton make one down the stretch of this game. Again, Iowa trailed by 12 with a minute and a half to play, and I'll kind of give everybody a rundown of what happened. Aaliyah Guyton makes a 3 with a minute 22 remaining. Jelani Cambridge then makes 1 of 2. Lucy Olson hits a 3 with a minute to go. Jelani Cambridge misses another free throw. And then Hannah Stolke actually missed. Iowa came up empty that following possession with 46 seconds to go. Hannah Stolke missed a layup. Cody McMahon goes to the foul line, makes 1 of 2 again. Lucy comes back with a 3-point shot, cuts it to 6. Jelani Cambridge misses another free throw. So basically all of her misses came down the stretch of this game. Lucy Olson then makes another 3 that cut it to 4. Then that turnover you mentioned earlier, Kyle, Lucy Olson misses a 3, offensive rebound from Sydney Falcher, puts the tip in, and she cuts the lead to 2, makes the free throw on the 3-point play. It's a 1-point game, and then another split at the free throw line for Ohio State. Cody McMahon makes 1 of 2. Lucy Olson draws the foul with 3 seconds to go, and credit to her. I'll be honest, Kyle, I didn't think she was going to make those 2 free throws. We've seen her miss free throws.
I wasn't sure, just because she hadn't actually shot poorly. I mean, she'd missed a couple. I thought she got a little unlucky on a couple of bounces on her free throws. But yeah, I mean, you talk about from where she came from going 1 of 6 in the fourth quarter against Nebraska to making 2 with how much time? Like 3 seconds left. Those are clutch free throws to hit both of those. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised. I'm not surprised either way. If she would have missed one and they lost, I would have been like, yeah, she struggled a little bit. But I wasn't surprised that she hit both because that's kind of the way. Those 2 free throws kind of are a nice picture of the way she's played lately. Really be able to step up for Iowa in the clutch moments. And yeah, I mean, 27 points is a heck of a game for her, even though she, 3 of 9 from 3, I guess she had to throw up a couple late in overtime. But yeah, she had a fantastic day.
Let's add our good friend Kachine Alexander into the mix. Kachine.
Hi.
What's up? How are you?
Hold on. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You were shocked when this game went to overtime. I know this because you called me and told me you were shocked. So explain for first of all, I got a couple of questions in the chat, and folks can call in if they choose 515-635-1601, or you can click the StreamYard link and join that way. But Kachine, what does it take when you're down 12 with a minute and a half to go against a top 10 team on the road, when you've struggled shooting the ball all day, to overcome the deficit, with the exception being you need something either go your way as it relates to opponent turnovers or opponent free throw misses? They got one of those to happen once in the turnover that led to an and one from Sidney Falter, and then Ohio State missed a flurry of free throws. But how did Lucy Olson and company get this done and force in the extra 5 minutes?
Luck and hustle is usually what it takes, because you need a lot of luck on your side, in the sense of some of those, even Aaliyah's Guyton's Rainbow 3, like those are things that are insane, right? You don't you don't think those are happening, but definitely luck and hustle, I think, is part of that. And thank the Lord that Ohio State doesn't shoot free throws well. That's really it. But yeah, I was shocked. Like I told you, I had got off about less than a minute left, maybe, because I had an event, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna quickly do this and I'll jump back on. And the next thing I know, I get a notification. It's like overtime. Huh? What happened? So that's when I called you, like, am I reading this right? What is going on? And you kind of ran me through it real quick. But yeah, I have to go back and watch it, because I feel like watching that live had to have been insane.
It was insane. I will be honest, I was on StreamYard getting ready for the post-game show. I hadn't turned it off. And it's understandable that you turned it off given your situation. We do appreciate you taking the time here during your full-time work day.
No.
I see a lot of people in the chat bringing up the turnovers. Now, they played 45 minutes instead of 40 today, so you're going to have a few more turnovers, but 20 turnovers. Yeah. How do you react to that? Like, are you just like, well, that's kind of what we expected, so no big deal? Or you still look at that and say you just can't expect that you've got to improve on that number?
I mean, we're already a little bit of a high turnover team to begin with. I mean, it's not, we can definitely cut down on them. But when you are playing a team who is a pressing team or something like that, your turnovers are going to be higher than normal. And I think, if I remember correctly, they were talking about Coach Jay saying something of the sort. Like, when you are playing a team like that, you have to prepare your players that, yes, you are going to turn the ball over. That's what they do. However, we have to limit our unforced turnovers, because they're going to force us into turnovers. That's what they do. But you got to limit your unforced turnovers to minimal. That's how you combat when you play a team like this. You just have to. So that's kind of I kind of knew that we were going to be turning the ball over a little bit more than normal, which is already at a high clip. So, and you said it was 20. We ended up with how many?
20. Yep.
I'll say this if I can jump in. So the other two, they played 3 top 25 teams in turnovers forced per game this season. The other 2 were Tennessee and Michigan State, and they combined for like 53 in those 2 games, which is 26.5 a game. Ohio State is the highest ranked of those 3 teams in forcing turnovers per game. And so for Iowa to hold it to 20, I think you can't expect Iowa to turn over 15 times in this game, which would be below their average, by the way. They're averaging like 16 a game. So I think 20 is
not terrible.
I mean, no, it's not. Especially when you play the extra 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So that's not bad.
We can agree, though, Kyle. It's hard to – I mean, I don't care who you are. It's hard to win if you're going to turn the ball over 20 times in any game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hard to win a game when you turn it over 20 times, but that's why Ohio State's good, because they can force 20, 25 turnovers in a game. It's hard. That's why it's hard to win against Ohio State, is because they do that. I'm not disagreeing that turning it over 20 times makes it hard to win, but I'm just saying turning it over 20 times against Ohio State is better than a lot of teams do.
Kachine, what did you think of the officiating? You think it was okay? Because I thought it was poor, and I don't normally say that.
Here's my point. I'm not gonna say that. My only issue is that it's no way that we got more fouls than Ohio State does. They're a physical team. That's what they do, right? So that was the one thing that I was a little confused about.
They went to the foul line 38 times to Iowa's 24. So that's my question. And The problem is, and this is why I bring up officiating, because it's one thing just to have some questionable calls, out of bounds stuff, whatever. No, Kylie Feuerbach didn't get to play in regulation. Sydney Falter was playing most of the game. I don't want to say timidly, but when you pick up too early, when Lucy Olson picks up too early, has to sit the rest of the half, it changes the way you defend the rest of the game. You were a great defender. Am I right in saying that? It changes, especially when you're going up against people like Cody McMahon and the Cambridge sisters. It's going to change how you approach it because they had to have a Falter on the court, and they especially had to have Lucy Olson on the court.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my point is actually what I was saying, in the sense of I find it hard to believe that Iowa fouled more times than Ohio State did.
And some of it was Iowa did have to foul late to try to come back. So, I mean, the fouls ended up being 29-21, real fouls. I mean, I don't know. I thought there were a couple fouls that I thought that, like I said to you earlier, I thought there were some anticipation fouls where the officials kind of said, oh, you know, we know Cody McMahon is a strong driver to the hoop. There probably was a foul there, and there just wasn't at times. I think, you know, when you have a team that's aggressive offensively and defensively, you know, there could be when you see a team that's forcing 25 turnovers a game or whatever it is, and they force a turnover, the general thought from a referee is going to be, they force a lot of turnovers, instead of saying, they probably fouled. And when there's an aggressive team that drives into the paint and gets a lot of their scoring in the paint and is strong with the basketball, when there's a little bit of contact, maybe not a foul. There's, Ohio State's a strong team. There's probably a foul there. I think they anticipate at times instead of just, watching it and calling, what they actually see. I think they kind of assume at times that there's going to be fouls or going to be calls that they need to make. I think Sydney Falter got a couple. I think 3 of her 5 fouls were probably fine. I think 2 of them were anticipated calls. And that's unfortunate because, like you said, it does kind of change the game a little bit. Similar to the Nebraska game where Iowa had to play a little bit differently. They were able to overcome that, but they weren't today. I'm not going to say the fouls cost them the game or anything like that. But
no, you're not going that far.
No, I'm not going to say that. But I do think it does change things a little bit. How much, you never know, because we don't get to go back. You don't get to go back and play the game.
I just think it changes things a lot because it's not just a matter of the free throws. Again, it's how you play and how you defend, Kachine. And in overtime,
but you can't say that.
In overtime, in overtime, Ohio State got to the rim a lot more than they did the whole game. They were getting the foul line a lot, and that wasn't happening up until that point. And I have to think part of that is because Iowa really was not able to be as physical and aggressive defensively against a team that you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to some extent, try to match their physicality inside, make them take shots. And all Ohio State was doing was driving at Iowa because they knew Lucy had 4 and they knew Sid had 4 and Kylie fouled out at the end of regulation. I just think it was more than just the free throw disparity.
I understand, but I wouldn't say it cost us the game though. I never say that, especially when it's fouls. The only reason why is because we also made a lot of stupid fouls. So I can't. If it's late.
No. Her Kachine's phone company didn't like what she was about to say. See, I agree with the phone company. I think the fouling was a big factor in this, and I understand what she's saying, and that kind of goes to my point earlier about stupid fouls, like when you're defending well, moving well with your feet, and then you swat down. Those are dumb fouls. I'd rather make, especially in the women's game, I see more. Kyle, I know you cover this game like the back of your hand, but I see more misses around the rim in the women's game. I just don't understand. Like, I would make people score on me around the rim, especially if you're right there, hands up, both hands up. Don't use that offhand to swat down and try to get a steal or a swipe, whatever you want to call it, a strip. But anyways, we've got a phone call here. We'll try to get Kachine back in the mix here. Let's answer our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Corey Lomansky, thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Lomansky, how are you?
Good. Really appreciate Kyle coming on. Great takes all season long. I enjoy his perspective and yours too, Corey. I thought in the third quarter, we played Iowa basketball a little bit like last year, meaning that we outscored the Buckeyes 6 in the third quarter, 5 points in the fourth, and we got out and run. And I'd love to know if Jan kind of said that's what we got to do to beat this type of team, because you can't slug it out against the Buckeyes in the paint. And I just want to give flowers to Sita Falter. I've never seen such a war down deep. Some of her box outs allowed other people for rebounds. She got a foul, and the Buckeye gal drove the lane and gave an elbow to her chest, and she went flying backwards and got a foul. And if you watch Sid's reactions today, she just couldn't believe where the whistles were coming from. And she usually doesn't do that. She was just like, "Are you kidding me?" But I'm so proud of the Hawks, and I think this team, we had to run up and down the court like we did in the third. And I'm so proud of this team, because people in the chat, they go to games, and everybody's got a right in America to say stuff, but this team is coming, and you just got to understand that what we lost last year. And I think this team is exactly where Jan wants them, and I'm proud of her coaching from what I saw in February. You can comment on anything I said.
Well, I would agree with basically everything. He kind of called your name out, Kyle, so I'll let you comment on this. But somebody earlier in the chat said Iowa was outcoached. I don't know where that comes from. In what way was Iowa outcoached today, Kachine? Was Iowa outcoached today?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
I mean, if we're being honest, we're completely. We keep becoming a part of games, staying in games when we're outmatched.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Like, the only way that you're able to do that is through coaching. You're out coaching other coaches with what you have. So I don't know. And I think fans are so used to a caliber of team that we don't have right now, that their mindset is still stuck in that way. If you evaluate the players that we have on our team, the skill level we have on our team, we should not be in half of these games that we're in. That's a fact. So the fact that we are playing the way we're playing right now, we are in games that we should not be in, we are doing all of these things, that comes from a culture, that comes from the players believing, and that comes from coaching. It doesn't come from anything else. If you don't have the talent, you don't have the talent. So the only other way you could do it is to outwork your opponents and to have a hell of a game plan to beat these teams. So I don't know why people are saying that, or why they feel like we're getting out coached. I've said other times where I felt like coaching could have been better so that we could have come out. I've said that.
Yeah.
But
I have too.
These games we should have, call it what it is. With the caliber of players that we have, we probably should have lost the game by 20 plus on Ohio State's home court. Okay. Like, now, because we're playing well, because the girls are believing, because we're scouting, because we're doing all of these things, we're able to stay in these games. We're able to play with the caliber of talent that is out there. We're not ranked. We shouldn't be playing a 10-ranked team on their home court in overtime.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I agree with you.
Is Kansas going to play Ohio State at Ohio State like that? No, they're going to get blown off the court.
And I was particularly impressed with how Iowa stayed composed, because they got down early in spite of the fact that I thought they were playing pretty well, Kyle. But they stayed together, and they never panicked. They just never panicked. And I think a team that lacks leadership, lacks good coaching, especially on the road against a really physical Ohio State team, you're not maybe getting a great whistle. You could easily wilt, and it could become 20-25. And Iowa they just hung around, kept it around 10 for a long time. And then at halftime, if anything, I thought coaching was on display, because they turned it on offensively. I want to get Kachine's take on what changed offensively in the third, going from scoring 9 in the second to 23 in the third, and then 40 or 30 in the fourth. But Kyle, would you agree with what Kachine had to say about coaching? I agree with Lemansky. I think Jan's got this team if anything, I take a really positive approach to what we saw today, heading into a nice break before UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that people are. I mean, it's okay to be not upset about the loss. I mean, they had a chance to win in overtime. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're upset that they weren't able to pull it off. But I mean, I don't think you're upset and starting to make things. Oh, they turned it over 20 times. Like, start making some of the comments that people are saying about out coached, too many turnovers, things like that. Like, I agree with you. I think you come out of today saying, shots weren't falling for us early, things like that. We still got it to overtime. We were able to fight at the end. It did take some luck. It took some shots that you're probably not going to hit, in the first quarter, but you managed to get it to overtime. Like I said earlier, I think this is a game that you lose no momentum from your 6-game winning streak. I think this just reinforces that you can stick with some of the top teams in the country. But yeah, to his point, Lemansky's point about the playing faster, I think there's a lot of people that want Iowa to play fast all the time because they saw Caitlin be able to grab a rebound and go dump it off to somebody with a 40-foot pass. Iowa cannot do that this year, but they can pick and choose certain stretches where they can go a little bit faster. And I thought they did that in the third quarter. Iowa's not going to be able to, not a team that can go play that third quarter 4 times in a row. They just can't play that fast for the full game because they just don't have the personnel to do that. I mean, you can do it when you have a Caitlin Clark that can pass like she can and push the floor like she can. But I think if Iowa picks the stretches where, you find some transition opportunities, and a lot of it comes off of the defensive stops. If you can find those opportunities to where you can run the floor and push and transition a little bit, then that's what makes them a better team. But I don't think they're able to do it for a full game. It's finding the stretches where you are able to get some stops that lead into your transition, but also noticing the defensive stops that might not lead into your transition and not trying to force anything. I think they did a pretty good job of that in the third quarter of noticing that there were opportunities to go in transition. But at other parts in the game, there weren't opportunities to go in transition and slowing it up at times and being half-court offense as well. But yeah, I have nothing. I don't know what those people would even say about the coaching. I'd be curious to know what they say specifically about the coaching that cost them the game. But I didn't think there was anything. I would say that Jan outcoached Kevin McGuff a bit because you look at the foul trouble that Iowa had and where Ohio State was up 13 at the half. Yeah. Ohio State being the number 8 team in the country with the foul trouble that Iowa was in should not have let up a 13-point lead. That just shouldn't happen. So I don't know. I don't know what the comments would be about Jan and what she did wrong. I'd be curious to hear more in depth about what those were, but I disagree.
Kyle, anything else before I let you slide? I mean, I know you weren't in Columbus today, but you covered this team as close as anybody. What's this week look like for them? I know there's going to be some media availability, but I would think it's a good time to get a break because they've traveled a lot, and this is obviously a long game with the extra period. But I think in general, this should not be to fans. It should not be discouraging. And I think to the players, they got to feel pretty good. They know they've won 6 of their last 7 and very easily could have won 7 in a row with 2 wins over top 10 teams. I think you got to feel pretty good. But what does this week look like for them?
Yeah, this is. I don't know what the days look like in between the rest of the games, but this feels like the last nice little bit of rest time before you really ratchet up for those final 3 games. Then it's going to be a Big Ten tournament followed by the NCAA tournament, and it's going to go pretty quickly. So I think this week more than anything will just be the last kind of chance to have a chance to relax and kind of recover just a little bit and take a deep breath and recharge before the last run of this season. But yeah, I mean, UCLA coming up on Sunday is obviously going to be a tough test. UCLA has played some close games against some other teams. They just played Michigan State right down to the wire. And Michigan State's a team that Iowa took to the wire. So I'm not going to say that Iowa is able to do the same thing on Sunday, but I think it's a game that Iowa can at least keep close. And I think if it's kind of similar today, where if Iowa just sticks in it on Sunday and can keep it close, I don't think losing 2 in a row is going to cost them a whole lot of momentum. I think if you can keep it close with UCLA on Sunday, you come out of the week feeling like you played really close against 2 top 10 teams. And that'll give you some extra momentum when you go into the Michigan, you go into Wisconsin, and then into the Big Ten tournament. So I think the important thing about this week is just kind of resting, recharging, trying to maybe right some wrongs from the Ohio State game in practice, and then just kind of getting prepared for what's going to be the final stretch run of the season now.
People can follow Kyle over at Huseman Kyle over on Twitter, and or I guess formerly Twitter, now X, and also HawkeyeReport.com. Kyle, it's a busy time of year. You got baseball underway, and of course, women's basketball heading into March is always fun. So, anything special in the hopper over at Hawkeye Report that people should be aware of?
No, just my usual coverage of women's basketball. Baseball this week, I'll have hopefully going to do kind of a recap this week of the opening season or opening weekend with Rick Heller. Going to hopefully talk with him tomorrow, but Not just my usual coverage as we go over this overlap time with baseball and women's basketball.
Good stuff, Kyle. We'll look forward to reading your post-game reaction on Hawkeye Report, and we'll talk to you hopefully after a monumental win on Sunday against UCLA.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kyle. All right, Kachine. Couple things here. Shoefly as a new member. So thank you, Shoefly. Appreciate you becoming a YouTube member here on the channel. And Patrick Wilson, how does Guyton compare to the freshman Cambridge from OSU moving forward? Any comp there, Kachine? I can't hear you. You're unmuted, but I cannot hear you. That is really strange. I can't hear you at all. Let's try to get you. Okay, we'll try to add her back in. Hopefully she can get her audio. I don't know what happened there. We had her 1 second, and then the next second she's gone. Kachine, do we have you now? No. Try to reload your page. Try to. Kachine, the machine is failing us. Her audio is failing us. Patrick, thank you for the super chat, and we will try to get to that here in just a minute. I will not forget about your super chat. And folks, if you want to ask Kachine or myself a question, you can do so by means of super chat or make a donation. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal is preferred. All those links are in the description. You can make a comment, a question as you make a donation. It's easy to do, and we will make sure to get to those. All right, let's go back to Lemansky. Lemansky, anything else? I didn't want to cut you off there. Anything else before I let you slide?
No, I just got to thank you for your patience with me, Corey.
No, you're good, Lemansky. I appreciate your call as always, and appreciate you being here during the middle of a weekday.
Lastly, I'm just going to say that, and this is kind of representative of how the team interacts late winter and early winter and late winter, how it's improving. But the couple of chat is kind of taking a few darts at Guyton for a missed shot. If you go back to the fourth quarter to get us to overtime, Guyton had all kinds of pressure towards the end, and she was looking for Lucy. And she got the damn ball to Lucy, and Lucy hit one of those last 2 threes to get us to overtime. This whole team is learning how to interact and who needs the ball and when to do what and when. And that kind of chemistry, this team is so much better than early in the year. I wish we would focus on shooting so much and try to understand the toughness of Sid in this game is just like, I was almost crying for her during the, I had 3 guys, she was in a war, and Guyton's ability to be basketball, high IQ, and get it to Lucy down the stretch, that's how you become better than the individual parts, where the sum of the whole is better than individual parts. And this team is coming. So thanks, Corey. Great show. And extra shout out to Cash for making herself available. She's a big time Hawk.
Thank you, Lemansky. Appreciate the phone call, sir. All right. We want to try to address that question earlier, Kachine, on Patrick. I'm assuming we still have you.
I hope so. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't know what was happening. Yeah, Guyton
Cambridge is ahead of Guyton right now in regards to where they are. Future-wise, who knows? I think they're both great freshmen, so you never know where either one of them are going to end up, but Cambridge is definitely on a different level right now.
I felt like it was a nice, maybe, I don't want to say bounce back, but it was just a nice game for Aaliyah. I mean, to make that rainbow three down the stretch finally, but they need some production out of the freshmen after a while. For a while, the young players were carrying this team. But Aaliyah went 3 of 5 from the field, made a pair of threes, 9 points, just 2 turnovers. She had to play. She played 29 minutes tonight.
Yeah, she needed that. Just to see the ball go through the hoop. So she definitely needed that.
BP wants to know what's going on during play as far as talking between players. Is there swearing, name calling? I know if I was playing, there'd be a lot of smack. Thanks. It's an interesting
Depends on the player.
I don't think there's a lot of smack talking with this Iowa team. Does it feel like that to you?
I doubt it. But it depends on the player, but I don't think Iowa's that kind of team.
YouTube Sucks says that you look different today. Probably because you don't.
No, they wrote that when I wasn't on. It was Kyle.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line? Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, Corey.
Yes.
Mike from Denver.
Hey, Mike.
I've got to jump in on the Jan Jensen thing briefly.
Okay.
I will give her first year coach, jitters. I understand that, but I think your players kind of feed off of what they look over at the bench and see. And Jan Jensen needs to take a Xanax, I think. She is all over the place, kind of losing it.
Well.
And one thing I will say is the other thing is, how long does it take you to be able to coach your team to break a press? Today looked great. I thought they did a great job breaking the press, but it took a really long time for them to get any semblance of being able to break the press.
Well, yeah, I'll defer to Kachine on this one because she's a former point guard. But I will say this: the grace I would give her, Mike, would be on two counts. Not just that she's a first-year head coach, but also that you think about the level of ball handling that they lost last year. Can we agree losing Caitlin, Molly Davis, Gabby Marshall, and Kate Martin all in the same year? That's a lot of ball handling. Lucy's being thrown into the mix. You're also calling upon a freshman in Aaliyah Guyton to be a secondary ball handler when she wasn't even healthy with this team as a true freshman until late November. Kachine, your thoughts on what Mike just got done saying about breaking a press and then also her temperament on the sidelines?
Well, my question back to you, Mike, is exactly what do you want her to be like on the sideline?
I want her to be like Dawn Staley was when she was getting her ass handed to her yesterday by Georgetown.
Well, here's the problem with that. That every coach is different in how they handle themselves. And Dawn Staley might be cool and calm, collected on the sidelines, but she tearing them kids apart in the locker room. So I don't think it really matters in regards to their temperament, quote unquote, because you've listened in to her huddles and she's very complimentary. She's very uplifting. She's very, and how she handles the girls. She's giving them, hey guys, this is what we need to do. Dawn Staley is not that. If they're not playing to her standard, they're going to hear about it. So I think it really depends on how they handle
I agree.
How she handles herself with them. I do think Coach J is a advantageous kind of person in general. And I say this jokingly, but you wouldn't like me as a head coach then if that was the case.
Right.
Because I would be
I got a question for you and Corey. 2 games on the line. Who do you want shooting the fouls?
That's a good question. Sydney.
Games on the line. Who do I want shooting foul shots?
Sydney.
Yes.
Probably Sydney or Addie.
Give me two. 2 people.
All right. Well, you
Addison
changed it. You moved the bar.
Sydney.
You moved the bar, Mike. I would say, hey, I will say this. I know what you're getting at, but I will say this. Lucy made 2 really big free throws when she had to today. She did.
I understand.
And and Sydney's making all her free throws right now. She went 4 of 4 again today. Hey, Kylie went 2 of 2 today. O'Grady went 2 of 2 today. Too many misses.
You got my top 2.
Yeah. Who's the top 2?
Bierbach, a falter.
Okay. I can take that. Yeah. I'll take that.
I think Lucy's got some mind thing going on,
Yeah, I want to go with that one.
You made those 2 big free throws, Cash. I didn't think she was going to make
them. I didn't think make them either. So
yeah.
Hey, I would never think that, but good for her. What was your other question again? Something. Oh, the press.
The press.
I think Corey kind of hit the nail on the head. It's nobody right now, except for maybe Lucy. Yeah, I'll give Lucy that. Has had to deal with what they're dealing with now. Last year, all of our guards, they didn't have to really do much because they had Caitlin. And even then, you have calm, cool, collected Kate Martin, who don't panic about nothing. So they really didn't have to do much. That's why people didn't press us, for that reason. So now you've got a group that, one, are trying to find each other, fit each other. It's a brand new group in a sense. And then you don't have real ball handlers to begin with. So I think all of that encompassing is what you've been seeing and the growth that you've been seeing. But I'm not going to lie, going against Ohio State, at Ohio State, and being able to handle the press and not having 30 turnovers, like, that's a win in my book.
I was impressed. I was impressed with the way they broke
That's a
that
win in my book.
press. I'm going to leave you with one statement, and it's that I don't think women's basketball, both the WNBA and major college basketball, can be taken seriously until you get quality referees. What I see out there, calls being made, change the game, change the whole game. And I'm just going to leave you with that. That is my frustration about the women's game. And a big fan, huge fan of Iowa basketball and the Big Ten. So nice talking to both of you. I'll let you talk about that. Thanks.
Mike, thank you for the phone call, sir. Appreciate it.
You don't have.
You agree with that at all, Kachine, about officials in this sport?
Yeah, the rest of all has been terrible. So, but I do think that because we're getting more people interested in women's basketball and things like that, it's more of a spotlight, and it's something that they really need to take seriously when they have their little ref summer school or whatever they do. They need to do that. They need to talk about that.
All right. I don't often pull up negative comments and highlight them, but I want to do it here just because I want to give you a really good answer, John. So John says, why is Kachine on this podcast? She's always negative and never appears to want to be there.
Where am I?
No. Hey. Let me just, first of all,
Go
I want
ahead,
to make
Corey.
this is a very odd comment to make, John, because she's literally in her car at her 9-to-5 job making time for this show. So first of all, your comment makes zero sense from that perspective. The other side of the coin is when you say, why is Kachine on this podcast? Because Kachine is this podcast. Okay. People like Cheesy Sucks understands what this is all about. This is a very unique platform, but it's a much more unique platform because of our experts. And she is one of 3 phenomenal experts that we work with here. And she is our expert, our go-to for Iowa women's basketball. So I'm surprised you're still here. You say you don't like listening to her on this podcast. You've listened to her long enough to know where she stands on things. But if you're listening to the podcast, you're listening to her because she is the podcast. That's what I would say. Askabum says, Kachine is the woman. Forget this, dude. Askabum, thank you for your support. Do appreciate that. All right, let's go back to our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Hi, guys. This is Annie from Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, Annie. How are you?
How you doing, guys?
We're doing good.
First of all, I thought the comeback was phenomenal. I thought Lucy really came through in the clutch.
Absolutely.
When she hit those 2 foul shots. I mean, that was ice water. That was ice water. I'm so glad she brought us into overtime. First of all, Kachine is not negative. She's knowledgeable. I just want to make that known.
Yep, knowledgeable and honest.
Let's get rid of some of that negativity.
Yep.
Okay. Next thing. The Ava has a lot of height, and I know she's a freshman. What do you think when the other 2 big girls got in foul trouble? Do you think Jan should have gave her a chance?
Good question, Annie. Kachine? Kachine, I lost you again. Something about your phone when you go black for a moment. I don't have Kachine.
We could see her, but we can't hear her.
She'll have to reload her screen and go back. Something about her phone.
But I was just wondering because Ava has height, and we definitely need a presence, at the boards and in the paint. So when there's
I
foul trouble, I thought maybe she might have given her a chance, but she's young.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the only thing I can think of, because in most cases, and you've heard Kachine address this topic as to why Ava doesn't play. In most cases, it's because there's not minutes to go around. Now, Addie did not have foul trouble. Okay, how many fouls did she have today?
Oh,
she
yeah.
she
A
had
Falter
2
and
fouls.
Silky were in foul trouble.
But in general, when Hannah gets into foul trouble, Addie's the player on the court, and so I don't really think they would both have to be in foul trouble, right, Cash, to expect Jan at this point to give Ava minutes, and especially on the road against the top 10 team on the ropes. I just think, Kachine.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
So let me tell y'all what's happening. Anytime my phone rings, that's what happens. It completely takes out everything else. Every time my phone rings, that is what's happening. So, anywho, I think Jan probably could have gotten away with it today, only because of Ava's athleticism. Could have been a strong suit, should I say. I still understand why she doesn't. I'm not at the point where I'm like, she should have played her. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not there. She could have gotten away with it because I don't think either one of them were playing exceptionally well. So I could have seen her possibly trying that option. I will say that in this game. But again, I'm not to the point where I'm like, yes, she should have played her. You should have played her. I'm not there. But I could see where she could have possibly used her in this game.
I would just like to try to see what her game is. I haven't really seen enough of her this year, and I respect her height. So I would just like to see her game.
Quick, the other aspect of this, Annie, is I thought, Kachine, this leads us into a different topic. I thought Hannah Sulky was extremely ineffective offensively. And the only thing I can think of is when she goes up against a shot-blocking big that doesn't foul, she's neutralized because she's undersized as a 5. We've talked about here how she really doesn't have more than 1 or 2 moves in the paint. So you know what she's going to do, and if you've got a big that's good at, again, shot blocking and avoiding fouls, she's neutralized. So I think from that, that'd be my bigger thing than just the foul trouble. Trying to get some offensive production from the 5.
Yeah, that's why I didn't put any foul trouble in there.
That's my point.
That's why I didn't say anything about foul trouble, because to me, I didn't feel like that mattered today. I felt like it was a possibility because of the ineffectiveness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, today I wouldn't have fouled. It didn't matter to me. I just felt like neither one of them were overly effective. And Hannah she struggled, and she's kind of been struggling. But I felt like that was an option today for that. That's my only, critique on the coaching, I guess, or substitution, but that's it.
Annie, anything else?
No, I agree. I just think it would have been an option, just something to try. And I thought Guyton did really good down the stretch. She came up with some clutch shots.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think she should get a little more playing time, I don't know. Because she's clutch in the stretch the last few times. When she gets off the bench, she's effective.
Yeah,
and I think she should get in there a little more. But that's about it. Good to see you guys. Stay
Annie,
warm.
Thank you for being here, Annie. We appreciate your phone call.
Oh, you're the best. Take care, guys.
All right. We have got a couple people here. We're going to put our phone line on hold just for a moment. Cash, you just let me know when you need to hop off here. We're trying to run through a few calls here, but you just let me know when you need to go.
Dean says through some calls. Go.
Dean says he'd rather have Taylor McCabe at the line. And we haven't seen her get to the line much because she takes so many threes.
Sure.
But
that's kind of hard. Yeah. I mean, I get his point, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to our next caller. We've got Savannah here joining us. Savannah, welcome to the show.
Welcome. It's not particularly to this game, but I have a quick development. They say from going from high school to college to pros, there's development that needs to happen. Besides that, how do some people progress faster than others? Is it practice? What are they doing? Like, you've got seniors like AJ Jada Jimpy's like in the upper class. They don't get a lot of playing time.
I think we lost Savannah. Are you still with us, Savannah? Nope, we lost her. I think we got the
That's okay. I'll answer that
question, didn't we, Cash?
The gist of it, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Every player is different. They're and I mean that in the sense of two players could practice the same amount of time. They could be in the gym the same amount of time. They could get the same coaching from the same people, and they're going to be two different people. That's just the individuality of every player. So Jada and Ettinger and all the other stuff, that's just where their ceiling is. Why isn't Addie O'Grady, who's played with Monica Cesano for how many ever years, not that's just the good and the bad of, I guess, sports, and what makes players special, honestly. So yeah,
there's a talent aspect to this, right? Some players have more talent than others. I think that's probably a fair assumption. Amon Rush.
Their ceiling, yeah. Everybody has a ceiling.
Yep. Thank you for reminding everybody to hit that like button. It is appreciated. Bert says, if Kachine leaves, I quit watching. So, well, Bert, I wish you felt. I'm glad that you feel so strongly about it. Yeah, exactly. I wish that you would, also enjoy our other content. Maybe he does. Maybe he's just defending you, Kachine. So, anyways, okay.
He's just defending me.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Bert.
People and they're going to be two different people.
All right, let's go to our next caller. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
This is Chris in very cold Wyoming.
Hey, Chris.
I have three things. First, I want to join Annie in defense of Cash because she provides insight into the game as a player and as a WNBA coach that most people don't have. So I really appreciate that. So if she's being realistic, that's not being negative. Telling the truth is not being negative. So that's how I feel about that. Love you, Cash. And also, the thing about the officiating, that's a real original reason for me calling in, is as I was watching this game today, I'm thinking, well, the officiating in this game is a lot better than what I saw in yesterday's game, Washington versus UCLA, where I don't know what was going on. I mean, they weren't calling jump balls, stuff like that. The very end of the game, I don't think officials should be deciding who wins, and that's what they did at the end of this game. There's a blatant foul, I think her name on Washington. I think her name was Hammond. Blatant, didn't call it. Washington bench is like upset, so they call a technical on the bench. They gave UCLA the game, and I was really upset about that. So with what happened today, the officiating, when they're not calling evenly, it throws people off their game, and because you don't know, are they going to call this, or they're going to, how are they going to call this? And I think it's very unfair. And also, I don't know who the guy was that called in earlier, and I'm not sure where he stood with the officiating in the WNBA. But I watched a lot of games last year, and it's my official opinion that the officiating in the WNBA sucks. And that's what I have to say about that. So I really wish it would improve on all levels. And it's really disappointing, to see calls not go the same, for both sides.
Well, I'll say
so
this.
That's what I have to say.
Chris, real quick, I did say this to Kachine during the game that I think how jump balls are officiated in this sport is ridiculous. Kachine, I don't understand. Why does it have to be like this? Why does it have to be like this? Why is there such a different standard with the women's game on jump balls? Why is it so difficult for officials on the women's side to officiate that? Am I wrong in complaining about
what's funny? Here's the funny thing about jump balls. I always felt like if there was a jump ball, the defense should get it. That's how I feel about it. If you on offense and you get tied up, that should go to the defense. That's no here nor there, but that's my little tidbit about jump balls. Secondly, I don't know. It's either like a super quick whistle or it's like it's never the same. Like you never really know. You're always surprised when someone calls a jump ball. Like, oh, they actually call that. So I I don't know. I can't tell you.
Well, all I know is there was at least one play today where there was an over the back. Well, was it? I'm trying to think, Chris. You probably remember better than I do. There was at least one where was it Lucy that had the ball on the floor and someone reached over her and around her, like over her shoulders, to tie her up. That's not a jump ball. That's called a foul.
Yeah.
That's called a foul.
I agree. I know. So it doesn't make sense to me. And if players get frustrated, apparently you're not allowed to be frustrated. You know what I mean? It's just it takes a lot of character to keep the lid on, you know.
Yeah. Well, there was also
it takes a lot of character.
Let me just say this real quick about officiating because I tweeted out about this when it happened, Kachine, and maybe you remember this moment, maybe you don't. But there was a moment in this game, I think it was third quarter, perhaps. There was a moment in which was it Cambridge that went in and got an and one. You saw what I'm talking about. You're right. The continuation on one of these and ones. Where she literally was fouled on. I'm trying to think of the play now. You know what play I'm talking about. Just bringing it up, right? The continuation where did she Euro step and she got fouled on this step. Huh?
What would you like to talk about in regards to that? The referee, the play call, and the play itself.
I'm talking about it was not a continuation. That's not an and one. Clearly is not an and one. In the NBA, it's an and one, but that's the epitome of inconsistent. There's no, she was not there. The official didn't even claim that she got fouled on the shot. The official called the foul, whistled.
You have to be in like the act of shooting, not like making a move to shoot. Like that's not no.
In the NBA, it's different. In the NBA, it's
all continuation.
So it was one of the worst continuations that I had seen. So there's just a couple examples. It wasn't just the jump ball stuff, but that's what I tweeted out during the game. How on earth is that a continuation? So anyways, Chris,
nothing is worse though, guys. I've never seen anything as worse as that. What was that? Like that backcourt violation for the men? That was insane. I've never in my years of watching basketball have seen something like that. That is crazy.
That was horrible. Yeah.
I've never seen that in my whole life. What? Wait, huh? That was crazy. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I'm sure I'm usually not speechless. That play made me speechless. I have nothing.
Chris, anything else?
No, except the UCLA win yesterday was without Lauren Betts.
Yep.
So the score might be deceptive. So, I hope the Hawks have a good showing. I think that's being realistic and just do their best. And I love this team, win or lose. So go Hawks.
Thank you, Chris. Go Hawks. To your knowledge, Kachine, is Lauren Betts back this weekend? Is she expected to be back?
I do not know that answer.
Okay. Greg Young, appreciate the super chat. We lost an OT at Ohio State last year. The rest of the season turned out pretty good. Go Hawks. They lost at Ohio State last year in OT with Kate Martin, Caitlin Clark, Gabby Marshall, Molly Davis. So, I think there's plenty of hard
place to play.
Say it again.
Ohio State's a hard place to play.
It is a hard place to play.
I think I only came out one time with a win.
And I don't know where I'd have to go back and look at their record last year. I think they've got a better record at this point this year than they did at this point last year. Am I right?
I don't know actually.
I feel like with Jelani Cambridge, obviously Kennedy Cambridge hasn't been great until now, but with Jelani, she's taken it to the next level.
Oh yeah.
And I thought from a coaching standpoint and a scouting standpoint, Kachine, that's why I was pretty happy with that first quarter, even though they were down 10, because it felt like they were executing the game plan, and I liked the game plan because the numbers say Ohio State's not going to.
You just started to hit.
Yeah. And, so anyways, Jacobra Cat says, love Kachine, love the Hawks. Great podcast. Appreciate that, Jacobra Cat. And we'll go quick fire on the chat here before we wind things down. Terry brings up Ava Hayden. What about some double posts with a high-low? We've talked about the whole high-low concept with Ava and Hannah. Why is that not being deployed? Why doesn't that work?
I'm not saying it doesn't work. I can't tell you why we haven't tried it though.
Okay. Jimmy T says the best player to be matched up against McMahon never got into the game. No Ava. Are you kidding me? She's not the best player to be matched up against Cody. Sydney Falls is the best player to be matched up against Cody. Just for the record.
Oh, that's insane.
RC says
Ava?
Jada Jimpy.
Oh, that's insane.
She says Jada Jimpy is truly disrespected. He says Jada Jimpy is truly disrespected. That's my only qualm. What has Jada Jimpy done that has proven that she's being disrespected? I have not seen anything when she has played that gives me reason to believe she can.
Everyone has a right to their opinion.
Step in at the 4. Shoefly thinks Hannah Stolke has been different post-concussion. Do you believe that, or I think she's always had a problem finishing around the rim. I don't think these are different issues that she's having now as opposed to before. Okay, we lost Kachine. Anyways, we'll get to that. Michael says Hannah was just atrocious, missing bunny after bunny, completely out of control, not what you want out of a veteran player. Again, she lacks a lot of post moves. She's playing undersized at the 5 because she doesn't have an outside jump shot. And so her athleticism gives them the ability to run against certain teams. But when teams slow you down, and especially when you have a shot blocking big like Ohio State did, they played somebody who didn't even, this is what's her face, who I can't pronounce her last name, Elsa Lamela, who ended up playing 34 minutes off the bench because she's a really good shot blocking big. She had 9 rebounds today, had 3 blocks. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and they are what they are, but she's got to play the 5 because she can't shoot, and she's just not developed her game to be comfortable at the 4. Steve Bohannon says, did anybody else feel like they were not ready to play today? Are we talking about Iowa? Iowa wasn't ready to play? No, I didn't feel that at all, Steven. I'm sorry you felt that way. I didn't feel that for a second. I thought Iowa came out, executed the game plan early. Sometimes shots don't fall, but defensively they did what they needed to stick around, and it paid off down the stretch. They just couldn't close things out in overtime. But one mighty effort, that's for sure. Let's see here. Polish guy, is it time to start questioning Hannah's fundamental skills? Again, I think this comes back to what we've talked about. She got pretty good footwork. We don't see her get called for traveling very often. But foul trouble has been an issue here of late. Again, she's not developed a number of moves, post moves around the rim. But again, she's not a natural 5. So I think she's kind of a tweener type of player right now until she can get more comfortable with her outside jump shot. And I don't think she's a WNBA player right now by any means. I just don't think you can play like she plays at 6'1", and not be able to stretch the floor like Megan Gustafson has done. Now, Megan Gustafson, she's sort of a outlier because she managed to develop her outside game at the pro level. She really didn't showcase her ability to shoot in college. But she was, size-wise, she was a natural 5, and she flourished at the 5 at all times. Hannah has been moved back and forth given the situations and has just struggled in certain situations. But she's certainly more effective offensively at the 5 than she is at the 4. But there are going to be bad matchups, and I do feel like today was a bad matchup for Hannah. So maybe you make the argument for Ava Hayden from that perspective, not because of defense, but from the perspective of maybe Ava could have given you more production offensively. Cyhawk C Money. Hawks win this at a neutral site. OSU got every lucky bounce and the benefit of the calls today. Keep your heads up. Go Hawks. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. RC says Mulaney is very underutilized as a freshman. We've got to be patient and hope she learns from this. A couple of bad turnovers down the stretch of this game, but I will give her credit. She came in and really rebounded well. Was tough, I thought, in that first half when Sydney Falter had to go to the bench. Really good composure and toughness from Tegan Mulaney, who has struggled almost all year, right? She's not made shots. She was 0 for 2 from 3 today, 0 for 4 from the field, and made a couple of rough plays there in overtime. But I give her credit for the fight. She came out. She was ready to go when Sydney Falter was down with foul trouble, and I would say the same thing about Aaliyah Guyton. And if they don't get the production from those two players, they may not even have a chance down the stretch of this game. Kachine Appreciation Society says, we're rocking with you. So there you go. Appreciate that super chat. And the comment was made when you were off of here, Kachine, about Tegan Mulaney and how she's underutilized. I will say this. You were frustrated in overtime with Tegan. However, she played 8 minutes, grabbed 8 rebounds. I thought she fought physically in that first half and rebounded, boxed out as well as we've seen her box out. And they needed her to, because you had the 2 fouls, Sydney Falter. I'd say the same thing about Aaliyah Guyton filling in for Lucy Olson. But I was impressed with what we saw from Tegan defensively and on the glass in that first half.
I agree with your statement about her being on the glass. However, she is not going to get. She's not the answer. She's not the answer, and that is our weak point. That is 100% our weak point. If Sydney is out of the game or something is going on, we take a serious dive downwards. Like it's not even close. So she did help us on the glass, but like I've said before, and I've said this in other pregame shows, if we do not figure out a fourth option, another option for the 4, we are going to be in trouble. Because once Big Ten like seasons are on the line, people are going to exploit that 100%. They're going to exploit that, and we have no option. And if we don't start working on an option now, we're going to be stuck.
Who do they go with at the 4? Are you advocating for Jada?
I don't know what I'm advocating for, only because I haven't seen anybody. So, like, I don't know what we look like with, Taylor Stremlow is strong. Could she do that? I have no idea. We front the post, we do something else. Okay. If we put in, because we've had, there's times where you can have short 4s. I've played the 4 before, and I'm short. It just is about toughness. So then the second aspect is, do you do the Hannah, quote unquote, is, offensively the 5, but that kind of thing. And you have Addie there playing the high post. I don't know, but there has to be another option. Because if we don't have another option, you cannot just rely on Sydney, because people are going to pick on her when the game is on the line and things are going on, because all you gotta do is get her in foul trouble. Who's coming? Who else is coming in? You just took out a complete option. What did she have? 15. What did she have today? 15 and 11 or something like that.
11 and 15. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could get her easily in foul trouble, that stops so many options for us. And then now you have to bring in Tegan. She can't really help you offensively. So.
But hold on a second. But she gave them 8 rebounds in 8 minutes.
8 rebounds is not giving me baskets.
Yeah, but Sydney Falter scored 11. Sydney Falter was 3 of 7. And
Sydney Falter also has given us more than that before. Tegan has not given us more than what?
I agree.
So,
I agree with that. I'm just saying, to spell you a few minutes. I agree with you. Falter's availability is right there with Lucy. I don't know, one is 1A and one is 1B. But I'm just saying, when you have to give her a breather, what we saw from Mulaney in the first half was good enough today. And if we could see that more, they'll be fine, assuming a Falter stays out of foul trouble.
That's also assuming that a Falter decides to turn it on later.
She's had it on for a while now.
That's great. I'm telling you now, that is our weak point. 100% that's our weak point. Everybody else, even if they do their jobs, things like that, Tegan Mulaney coming into the game is an automatic.
But for the record, Taylor Stremlow is 5'9" with shoes on. 5'9" with thick shoes on. So that's. I know maybe you played the 4
Play
at times.
zone. Do something. Like at this point, you got to have other options. And Tegan she's a walking turnover. She's like, there's so many different things wrapped into that. It's not just one. And I get it. The 8 rebounds, that's a crazy stat. That's a crazy stat line. But it's just everything else is just very helter-skelter. So I'm just looking forward and trying to figure out how can people beat us. Get us in foul trouble because we're not deep at that area, and obviously press us, make us turn the ball over. Okay, great. So my only option is trying to figure it out. And again, I don't want to be in a situation where we have no option in game. We need to be working on these options in practice. Not saying you got to bring it out, but at least have it as an option so that if you get into a situation, you can do that. And I don't think we have that. I think we're just hoping that she doesn't get in foul trouble.
Classically Royal says, I love Kachine on the podcast. Your insight is priceless. Thank you, Classically Royal. Robert says, hey, Kachine, how cold is it in the car? What is it like in Charlotte?
It's warm.
Yeah? Is it warm?
I got heat on. What you mean? You thought I was sitting in the car without heat? Oh, that's insane.
It's just cold outside, warm in the car.
Yeah,
Mike is trying to make me feel better. He says, you need to be doing major play-by-play. You do a great job, great insight. Oh, thank you, Mike. I appreciate
agree,
that.
Corey. You'd be good at it.
Hey, thank you, Kachine. Kim says, we both need to be hired by the Big Ten Network. So I don't know if the Big Ten Network
statement too.
Hey, I don't know if Big Ten Network's where the money's at. I think the money's at like Paramount Plus. Peacock. I think that's where the money's at. All right. All right, let's because I know you've got to get going. One more question here. Well, first of all, Julie says you think like a coach, and that's why we love her on here, Julie, because she gives us that perspective. Doug wants to know, why didn't Iowa press OSU a little bit more? It affected Iowa's offensive rhythm. So can you?
I mean, we were already in foul trouble, so I don't think you want to do that.
They got foul trouble early.
Yeah,
they got foul trouble early.
You're just asking for us to get a ticky-tack foul somehow.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to this game coming up on Sunday. Obviously, a long prep period from a Big Ten Conference schedule perspective. But assuming Lauren Betts is available and plays, this is going to be one massive challenge for the bigs, for Hannah, for Addison, possibly for I bet we see Ava. Maybe not.
Oh, yes, I think we will, unless somehow we stay out of foul trouble. I find that very hard to do with Lauren Betts as your assignment. But I really do feel like almost you might have to throw bodies at her, because Ava just go in there and make it hard. I don't know.
So what's the key to figuring out how to slow Lauren Betts down, assuming she is it just throwing people at her? What do you do schematically to try to slow her down? Because she's maybe going to win National Player of the Year, certainly in the running for Big Ten Player of the Year.
There's lots of ways to handle when you have a player of that magnitude. Thinking of it as like Caitlin Clark. Nobody tries to stop Caitlin Clark. Not when she played at Iowa. What they did decide to do is the best way to do it is to stop everybody else. Limit everybody else. Let Caitlin Clark do her thing. We've heard that many times before. Coaches being like, listen, Caitlin Clark was going to do her. If we could stop the Gabby Marshalls, the Kate Martins, and we can limit that, they felt like they were in good contention. It's kind of the same scenario in the Lauren Betts. I'm not saying let her go for 40. You know what I'm saying? But you have got to do the best that you can without fouling. And everybody else, we have to limit and shut down. We have to shut down their guards. We have to make it hard for them to make passes to her. We have to be active. Lucy's got to use those arms like she ain't never used them before. Those kinds of things. Make it difficult for the pass. And then, if we are going to decide to double, which I don't know if that's in our best interest because we're like 5'8". Like, she's just going to throw it over. But if we do decide to do that, you have to double on the catch. If you allow her to catch and turn or catch and survey, we are cooked because she's too tall. So as the ball is in the air, we have to arrive. So we're trapping before she's able to turn. So she can't see. The only thing she can see is that way. She cannot make the turn. So if we're going to double, we got to be real good at it. If we're not going to double, fine. Just make sure we take care of everybody else and limit everybody else to the best of our ability. That's just my take on it.
Is it fair to say she may be the most important, maybe Juju, but in this conference, the most important player to what their team does?
Yeah, I would say her and Juju for sure.
So she's nursing a foot injury,
Mhm.
and her status moving forward is somewhat questionable. But I don't know what UCLA's schedule looks like. I guess I can pull it up here.
I
was going to
wouldn't
also
play her only because, again, I don't know the extent of it, but I would not play her. And the reason why I wouldn't play her in our game is if she's not 100% is because you are now getting into serious territory. You're starting to get to the end of the season. If you let this linger and linger and linger and linger, there's likelihood that it will start to linger into Big Ten championship, NCAA. Rest her so that her foot is 100%, whatever that may be. Now, again, maybe her foot is 100%. I don't know. But I'm just saying I would not play her until it's 100%, whatever that means, because you're not going to fall that far in the Big Ten, right? Like their team could figure out the rest of their schedule for the most part, with or without her. So that's just my take on it. And I'm sure they're thinking about those things as well.
I was going to bring up Kiki Rice and Gabriella Jaquez are both averaging double figures as well. So away from Lauren Betts, especially if she doesn't play, what's the focus of Iowa Scout this week? If she's not on the floor, whether it be because of the injury or maybe even foul trouble, who else do Iowa fans and the coaching staff, who are they looking at on tape?
It's definitely going to be Kiki Rice for sure. I mean, you're looking at her with or without Lauren Betts playing, because that is that their next best takeover, should I say. So I would definitely say her.
Shooting 35%, 35% from three, 54% from the field, also averaging 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 13 points. So a very efficient guard.
Mm-hmm. And she's definitely a downhill kind of guard. Like she's tough going to the rim. So definitely Kylie's going to draw that matchup. But I think this week, if I am Coach J, clearly I'm taking off tomorrow. That's a given. I would, the next couple days after that, I would split up our practices to be more individual, one-on-one, things like that. Trying to get, and the reason why I say that is trying to get Hannah back into a good rhythm, trying to get her feeling confident about herself, things like that. Working on specific things position by position. So maybe one day you do positions, right? You have a group of post players, you got wings, you got your point guards. And then maybe the next day we do straight individual workouts where just you and your position coach and y'all are working on what you need to work with. This hopefully will also get, Aaliyah Guyton going a little bit more. She's got her one-on-one, because a lot of times during the year, you don't get that. You got a whole week. So why not use it to the best of your advantage by getting individual work with some of these players? That's how I would handle it before we go back into team practices. And I hope they do that, because I do think it would be beneficial for some of, the guards and different things like that, for them to be able to get one-on-one time with their, respective coaches, things like that. This is a good and bad time at the same time. It just depends on how we take advantage of it. Because it is a long break. So use it to our advantage, work on specific things, really break down practice for what our weaknesses are, try new things. You got time. This doesn't happen. You got like 10 days before you play again. So using that to our advantage is something I hope we do and take full advantage of, while resting any nursing injuries that we may or may not know about as fans. So yeah, I'm curious to see what they come up with during this break. And my hope is they're back home. They're feeling the upset kind of magic momentum scenario we just did against USC. So I'm hoping that, can kind of manifest itself. And I know the fans are going to be crazy because they believe now They may not have fully believed at USC, but they believe now. So I feel like the fans are going to be a little bit more anxious crazy from the start. And we all know, just like USC, they just pulled off that upset, and it ain't because it's USC. That crowd was crazy. I stayed up watching it. It was crazy. And it's like you couldn't turn the TV off because the crowd was just going bananas. And that's like Iowa's fans. And they will you to a win. I 100% agree that. And I feel like our fans are going to do that for us on, what is it, Wednesday?
Sunday.
Is it Sunday?
Yeah, they have.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. Let me pull it back up. But yeah,
Whatever
it's Sunday.
day.
It's Sunday. I don't know why the people, they call in and they're on hold and then they hang up.
It's okay. But yeah,
anyway,
that's all my thing.
Okay, and real quick, just for the record here, because there's a couple things here. Raina, we did talk about the post conversation in half court and Hannah struggling. So rewind the tape. We did talk about that regarding Ava Hayden in that conversation. Julie wants to know if Iowa beats UCLA and they don't have Lauren Betts, will that help them in the rankings? Speaking of Iowa, will that help Iowa in the rankings? Well, rankings don't really matter, Julie. Not to ignore your question. Will it help their resume? The answer is yes. Not as well as it would help if Lauren played, but that will help them on the resume. It will still be a marquee victory.
Yeah, maybe that's what they meant. That's what I'm gonna go with.
And let's see here. Just for the record, Janiah Barker scored 18 and 12.
I keep forgetting about her.
Yeah, in Lauren Betts' absence. So that's one thing to keep in mind. She's an athletic, not quite as big as Lauren Betts.
That's a better matchup for us, though. Just a little bit, because she's kind of like a Hannah. So, like, that's a little bit better matchup for us.
And final thing, Uno is predicting a 30-point UCLA win. Yikes. So can you give us a score prediction, Kachine?
Oh, God, no. I refuse. I refuse. I refuse.
I'll give you a score prediction.
Then you take that. Go ahead.
I'll give you a score prediction, assuming that Lauren Betts does play and is healthy. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 score predictions. If Lauren plays, I've got UCLA winning 70, Iowa 57. If she doesn't play, I've got Iowa 68, UCLA 65. So I do think her playing may be the difference this week, but I think they'll compete even with her. They proved against USC.
I feel like we will compete.
Yeah, they've done that now twice. USC, Ohio State, they've competed exceptionally well. If only they could.
I can't do that.
Well, I'm not gambling.
Well, you know what I mean. I can't do it. That whole score prediction thing is not for me.
All right, folks. It looks like our call line's clear. Kachine, you got to get back to your day. The Hawkeyes falling in overtime, 86-78. And in spite of a really good performance out of Lucy Olson, 27 points, 8 of 20 shooting, made 8 of her 12 free throw attempts, also totaled 7 assists. Sydney Falter fouled out, had 11 points, 14 rebounds. How about Tegan Mulaney off the bench with 8 rebounds in 8 minutes, a couple of crucial turnovers in overtime. Iowa struggled to shoot the ball all day. Hannah Stolke struggled from the field, had 10 points. Taylor McCabe was 1 of 3, just 1 3-point make. Aaliyah Guyton was better today, 9 points on 3 of 5 shooting. Addie O'Grady didn't play great, only played 12 minutes, had 6 points. Taylor Strimlow played 5 minutes, she had 1 rebound, did not log any other stats. And I believe that's it. Hawkeyes finishing the game shooting 42% from the field, but 63% in the fourth quarter. It went 36% in the first quarter, 23% in the second. And then in the second half, Iowa shot 58% in the third, and again, 63% in the fourth. And, missed 7 free throws. I know Ohio State missed 12 free throws, but if you make 1 more free throw in regulation, maybe you win this game. So, folks, appreciate you being here. The Hawkeyes will be back on the court this coming Sunday. They'll play UCLA, the 3rd-ranked Bruins, on Peacock. We'll see if Lauren Betts plays. And does UCLA have another game before? I'm assuming they do. Let's see here. Yes, they play Illinois in 3 days. So that would be Thursday. So that's a fairly quick turnaround for UCLA, because that's a good Illinois team that just found themselves in the rankings this week. So We appreciate Kachine being here. We appreciate all of you. If you're interested in sponsorship, the email is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. You can also donate to the show. Links in the description. Hit that like button before you leave. Tell your friends about what we're doing. Buy your From the Hawkeye of the Storm merchandise. Support our sponsors, and we'll talk to you soon.